The next part for this problem is to find the class midpoints. Okay, so remember that we have 7 classes, okay? We have 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 7 classes in total. So we're going to have 7 class midpoints, okay? So what we can do here is that we could make another line, okay? And we're gonna input here class midpoints. Let's write it as MP, okay? Class midpoints. So we're gonna have 1 class midpoint for each. And you're gonna see that it's really straightforward how to find, okay? So to find the first class midpoints, we are going to take the first lower class limit, which is the 35, and the first upper class limit, which is the 39. We're going to add them together and then divide it by 2. That's how we get the class midpoints. So for this class, the midpoint is the average between those two. So we're going to take the 35, we're going to add the 39, and then we divide it by 2. Okay, so let's use the calculator. So 35 plus 39, they give us 74, and then we divide it by 2, it's 37, okay? So that's gonna be our first class midpoint. Let's go to the next one, right? So it will be 40, right? Plus 44, that's our second class. And then we divide it by 2, right? So 40 plus 44, they give us 84, right? And then we divide it by 2, right? So what do you get? Exactly, right? 42, right? So we put 42 here. And that's our second class midpoint. Notice that we can keep going for each class. But remember, right, that we don't have to do every single class to find the midpoint, right? So we don't have to do again 45 plus 49 and then divided by 2. Because remember, right? Let me put a note here. Remember in the first step that we did, right? That the class width was what? 5. So this also applies for our class midpoints. Okay? So notice, what's the difference between the first class midpoint and the second class midpoint? It's gonna be 5, right? So if we want to find out the class midpoint, we just keep adding 5 for the next class midpoint, right? So 42 plus 5, that give us 47, right? Plus 5, that give us 52, plus 5, that give us 57, right? So that's our next midpoint, and then our next midpoint plus 5, that give us 62, okay? So let's make sure that we got it correctly, right? So 37 plus 5, 42, plus 5, 47, plus 5, 52, plus 5, 57, that seems correct, right? And then 62, right? So that's how we find the class midpoints. Now let's go to the next step. We need to find the class boundaries. So let's make another line here. Okay, so let's put here class boundaries. Okay, so for the class boundaries, we're going to start. Okay, notice that our class numbers, or the numbers involved in the classes or in the ranges, right, are whole numbers. Okay, so we are not going to make it harder for you. Okay, all we have to do is to subtract or add 0.5 to the first lower class limit, and then we keep going. Okay, so for example, so for the 35, our class boundary will be 34.5. Okay, and then for the 39, so remember, for the left numbers or the lower limits, we subtract 0.5, and for the upper limits, the ones on the right, we add 0.5. Okay, so the next, for 39, the class boundary will be 39.5, and then we just keep going. For 40 will be what? Remember, we subtract 0.5, right? Or 39.5. And then for 44, we add 0.5. So that'll be 44.5. And then we just keep going. Notice here, we have the 39.5 and then start again at 39.5. Okay, that will make sense for the construction of a histogram. Okay, this will come very useful for the histogram. So keep in mind on how to construct histogram, because we are going to need these class boundaries. Okay, we are not going to need all of them because they repeat. Okay, like 39.5, it repeated here, so we're just gonna use it once for the histogram. So for the next we have 45, but it's like the previous one, so 44.5. Then for 49, right, will be 49.5, and so on. Okay, and then for the last one, right, is 69.5, and that's how we find the class boundaries. Okay, now some professors or some textbooks, okay, they ask you to write down the class boundaries. Okay, in which that means that you don't have to rewrite the repeating ones. So our class boundaries will be 1. So you start from 34.5, right? And then you keep going 39.5. And that's it. Yeah, so you could put the last one or you don't. It's up to you. Okay, but you could just add it to the end. 69.5, right? Those are the class boundaries. Some textbooks and some professors don't add the last one, or they don't add the first one. So they start from the 39.5, from the second one actually, and they just keep going and they ended up exactly at 69.5. So I would recommend to ask your professor which way you prefer. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you for the next video. Thank you.